Ah, ahora entiendo. La detección automática no funcionó. Hola, hola, hola. Buenos días. I think si hay un poquito de espacio entre la traducción en inglés y lo tenés que cambiar manualmente al español. Ahora parece que sí está, ¿no? Oh, wow. Okay. No, we do. Hola. Hello. Good morning. Welcome, everybody. Now it's picking it up, but en español no sé si lo está entendiendo. Okay. What happens is, so I would say once you figure out which is your session, close out all the other windows, like this one. Sorry? Hello. Testing. 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello, 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 hello. 1, 2, 3. Testing. One, two, 1, 2. Good morning, welcome. Okay, now switch. Hola, buenos días. Un placer darles la bienvenida al evento de Mujeres Guardianas del Océano. Mi nombre... No.
All because of you, I be on the phone all night long. Oh. Don't be smarty when you do it to me. Oh no, no, no. I be on my business, shawty, but you be on my mind, shawty. Ebelebe, olo my honey, oh. Kiss me through the cellular, kiss me through the phone. Can't you see I'm into ya? Can't you see I'm in love? Kiss me through the cellular, kiss me through the phone. Yeah, messing with my medulla. I don't go low. Oh no. Emiliano, 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 no. Emiliano, 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 no. You're one in a million, no. In a million, no. In a million, no. My Emiliano, 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 no. Oh, oh, oh. Girl, I wanna know what it feel like, yeah. What it feel like, yeah. Make I know what's it be for real life, yeah. For real life. In my condo, loving up your body in faster, slow-mo. If I hit you, it's my combo. Can you will never ever let me go? Dancing me, oh. Kiss me through the phone. Can't you see I'm into ya? Can't you see I'm in love? Kiss me through the cellular, kiss me through the phone. Yeah, messing with my medulla. I don't go low. Oh no. Emiliano, 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 no. Emiliano, 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 no. You're one in a million, no. In a million, no. In a million, no. My Emiliano, 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 no.
success.
Testing, testing, 1, 2. Salut, je m'appelle Rowena. J'essaye de... No, why is that? Why is that in French? J'essaye de parler en français. Nice to meet you. Sorry, I'm gonna put that out, yeah. Et maintenant, si je parle en français, qu'est-ce qui se passe? Oui, ça traduit en anglais. Parfait. I don't speak Spanish, so I can't speak Spanish. Yeah, it's just once, because we just have one. Testing, testing, 1, 2. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. What? Oh, ok. Et si je parle en français, qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant? Ça traduit en anglais ou ça traduit en français? Non. There's only one speaker. If I block. We are soon going to be starting this event. It's the Women Ocean Guardians, a call to action for transformative ocean economies and conservation worldwide.
Hello. Fresh on the beat.
Once upon a time, some people come together, made a plan, took a chance, agreements between one another. Them they go, them they go, them they go. Them they fight, them they quarrel, them they go. One silly, the other sneaky, the other sleazy. I tell them if them no hungry, make them scatter, go their separate ways.
If you'd like to take your seats, we're going to begin. To all Women Ocean Guardians, Excellencies, colleagues and friends, my name is Rowena Waldron, representing the UK's Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. Along with our co-hosts, the Wildlife Conservation Society, Conservation International and the Global Environmental Facility, I'm excited to welcome you to today's event. Before proceeding to introduce today's moderator, I would like to provide a brief overview of the live interpretation services that will be provided during today's event. Today's first keynote speaker will offer her remarks in her mother tongue of Spanish. During her remarks, you'll be able to follow along in English on the screen at the front of the room. Following her speech, the remainder of the event will be conducted in English. If you wish to follow along in another language, we ask that you scan the QR codes dotted around the room on the back of some of the chairs. Select your language, select your preference, but if you choose to do so, please use headphones to not interrupt the other speakers. Please note that the interpretation of proceedings serves to facilitate communication and does not constitute an authentic or verbatim record of the proceedings. Only the original speech is authentic. And now, I'm thrilled to introduce you to today's moderator, Director of the 30 by 30 Global Marine Programme at the Wildlife Conservation Society and Women Ocean Guardians Lead at WCS. If you know Pamela Castillo, you know she is a champion for women through and through, a tireless advocate for gender inclusion, always leading from the heart and uplifting women in every corner of the world. But before Pamela takes the stage, let's hear from the Women Ocean Guardians themselves. Thank you.
Para mí trabajar en el mar es como, siento que es como volver a mis raíces, como conocerme mejor, como, no sé, creo que es algo bastante personal y familiar.
Nosotros vivimos de la tierra, somos comunidades completamente anfibias, vivimos del mar en medio de los humedales.
En el marco del evento Guardianas del Océano fue un evento sumamente importante, valiosísimo, poder concentrar a muchas mujeres que estamos luchando por una mejor participación en liderazgo, por un mejor apoyo de las bases y que permita a las mujeres tomar decisiones que nos lleven a conservar mejor nuestros océanos.
As a conservation-based organization, we interact and we deal with the persons who utilize the natural resources that we're trying to conserve. We need to engage women because they're a valued stakeholder in the sector.
Entiendan que nosotras las mujeres podemos, somos valiosas y bueno, tenemos técnicas de pesca.
Somos mujeres marinas, pero estamos sufriendo de violencia de género. Entonces este evento ha sido muy importante porque cada una de nosotros habló de su experiencia, de cómo trabaja en sus comunidades, de cómo ayuda a la protección y la conservación.
Este es cuando nosotros hemos tenido que enfrentarnos ante diversas amenazas, incluso hasta de muerte. Pero a la verdad, con todos nosotros estamos disponibles a estar ahí a pie juntos, pelear nuestros recursos, que es lo que hemos venido haciendo por años.
No era que no era fácil, era muy difícil enfrentarse al hombre y decir, mira, yo también soy una mujer del mar, yo también tengo derecho a estar en el mar. Es muy sanador.
You have just seen a video. You just have heard the voices of women on the front lines, their lives, their struggles, their power. Those women are the reason why we are here. They are the Women Ocean Guardians. As former Deputy Minister of Environment of Costa Rica, I didn't need a report to see the gender gaps. I saw them in the room. I felt them in my skin. The absence of women in decision-making, the silence around their leadership, the barriers they face every single day. And yet, women are always there, fishing, restoring mangroves, patrolling protected areas, passing knowledge to children. Do you know, globally, less than 13% of rangers are women, and about 70% of them face barrier to career growth. We cannot protect the ocean if we exclude half of the population. In 2024, Wildlife Conservation Society, Conservation International, the Global Environmental Facility, in partnership with the government of Costa Rica and the support of 11 partners organizations, help bring together 26 women frontliners from Latin America and the Caribbean, indigenous leaders, fisherwomen, rangers, scientists. We met in Isla Chira, Costa Rica. They shared their stories, they shared their pain, they shared their ideas, they shared their power. From that came a call to action for recognition, leadership, and resources to lead with dignity. Our role at WCS, together with CI and Jeff, was to connect them, hold a safe space, to lift their voices on the global stage, and help unlock political and financial support. And because of their leadership, 7 governments and more than 20 organizations now stand with women ocean guardians around the world, committing to create the conditions for their leadership to thrive. Already, over $4 million in seed funding has been mobilized to drive the following 5 pillars. First, consolidate a global network of women frontliners and ocean leaders. Second, increase women's voices in policy. Third, support leadership and fair opportunities. 4, exchange of knowledge between countries. And 5th, accountability and learning. It also focuses on ending violence and stigma, valuing caregiving and ancestral roles, health rights, fair pay and safe work, and real seats at the decision-making table. It's not just about women's agenda. It is about conservation and human rights. Wildred Rodriguez, who you saw her in the video, says, it's critical that women ocean guardians expands globally. Women face violations of rights, lack of healthcare, unequal pay. This network empowers us to raise our voices and be recognized as agents of change. Women ocean guardians show us defending the ocean is defending human rights. When women's rights are respected, when their voices are heard, when their leadership is supported, communities are stronger and the ocean is better protected. So today, I ask you, stand with them, sign the Women Ocean Guardians voluntary commitment, support them with resources, protection, and recognition. WCS, CI, and GEF will continue to help Women Ocean Guardians movement, convening, connecting, giving visibility. But the leadership will always belong to the women on the front lines. Let us walk together toward a future where those most connected to the ocean are the ones who are empowered to protect it. With all that, I will change to Spanish to introduce our keynote speaker. Es un honor para mí presentarles una mujer líder, comunitaria de San Bernardo del Viento en el Caribe colombiano, que nos compartirá cómo ha transformado la vida de muchas mujeres y la de su comunidad a través de su fundación Sinumar. Tengo el honor de llamar a mi amiga guardiana del océano, Dorcas Batista.
Estoy un poco nerviosa, pero feliz. I'm happy. Buenas tardes, soy una mujer del mar. Mi nombre es Dorcas Bautista Sogamoso. Vengo de un pequeño pueblo en el Caribe colombiano, junto al mar Caribe y la desembocadura de un gran río, el río Sinú. Soy hija de un hombre pescador afrocolombiano y una mujer indígena colombiana, perteneciente a uno de los 115 pueblos originarios que hay en Colombia. Vengo de un territorio en el que podemos durar hasta 3 días sin energía y completamente incomunicados, donde no hay universidades, donde no hay agua potable, donde hay muchas necesidades básicas sin resolver. A la edad de 16 años migré a la ciudad más grande que había cerca a mi territorio, a Medellín, a 11 horas por carretera, con el sueño enorme de convertirme en una gran profesional, de ser una gran estrella. En Medellín terminé en casas de familia, trabajando, haciendo aseo, limpieza. Me resistía a que ese era mi universo. Venía de ser una mujer del mar que crecí entre el río, los manglares, conociendo los vientos, las corrientes, hija del gran viejo del mar. y estar en la ciudad en esta condición. Me fui a la calle a cantar en los buses, a cantar donde podía para sobrevivir. Me cansé, me retorné al territorio y estando allá muy frustrada, llegué con mucha rabia, una sensación de impotencia, de sentir que ese discurso de que el que quiere puede, pero la realidad es que no siempre se puede. La realidad es que muchas nativas como yo, en las condiciones mías, debemos retornar a la vida que nos tocó. Las mujeres en mi comunidad no iban al mar. Yo tuve la fortuna de tener un papá que nos acercaba al mar. El conocimiento sobre el mar era dominado exclusivamente por hombres. Pensé que la nueva generación tenía derecho a acercarse al mar. Empecé con 3 niñas, 5 niñas, 50 mujeres, 80 mujeres, 100 mujeres. Hoy somos un movimiento que en 15 años después hemos logrado el 0 embarazo en nuestra comunidad. Hoy, 15 años después, tenemos la primera generación hijos de pescadores en la ciudad de Medellín estudiando una carrera profesional y tenemos un fuerte liderazgo de mujeres que hablan de salud menstrual, de conservación de los ecosistemas marino-costeros. Y 15 años después estoy yo parada aquí en este escenario con ustedes en un continente que quizás ustedes no entiendan lo que representa para mí. Pero mi papá, un hombre afrodescendiente, descansó hace 3 meses, está en la eternidad. Siempre pensaba, África como su madre, su origen, el origen de sus ancestros, y yo poder estar hoy aquí y con esta túnica reivindicando nuestros valores ancestrales. Quizás no lo entiendan, pero hay un pueblo que late fuerte con nuestra historia en Colombia y en los pueblos marginados. Luego aparece Guardianas del Océano como una oportunidad para sanar mi corazón, para saber que podía ser escuchada, dejar de ser una líder aislada en un territorio olvidado y pararme en un escenario y poder decir, tengo voz. Ahí están pasando cosas importantes en los territorios y reconocerme a través de otras mujeres que igual que yo están luchando en diferentes lugares del mundo por transformar esa realidad. Y yo aprovecho e invito a todos los que están hoy en esta sala que se vinculen a Guardianas del Océano, que les den la oportunidad a esas muchas mujeres como yo que están en los territorios resistiendo, transformando y conservando el futuro para las nuevas generaciones, conservando los ecosistemas marino-costeros, que les den la oportunidad, mujeres como yo, que ahora tenemos esperanza y nos sentimos orgullosas de poder estar en este escenario y poder alzar la voz y que se ponga luz sobre las que hacen el trabajo invisible en territorios, en contextos de violencia, en contextos de violencia física, violencia por conflicto armado, falta de educación, acceso a la salud y una cantidad de herramientas que necesitamos para que nuestro trabajo sea más efectivo. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Dorcas, for sharing what it means to be a women ocean guardian, leading this effort from the front lines of conservation. Your story inspires us and shows us exactly why women frontliners belong here in the decision-making processes. This movement requires women frontliners, NGOs, governments, and founders to work towards a shared vision of an inclusive ocean governance. In that effort, we would like to acknowledge the Global Fund for Coral Reefs, an entity that has been working tireless to support women on the front lines of conservation for coral reef ecosystems, and early signatory of the Women Ocean Guardians voluntary commitment. To share more about the GFCR's commitment to an inclusive ocean governance, I'm honored to welcome our next speaker. A scientist, a global leader, and a powerful advocate for women. I'm deeply honored to welcome Dr. Susan Gardner, co-chair of the Executive Board of the Global Fund for Coral Reefs and Director of the Ecosystem Division at UNEP.
so much passion in this room. I think we're all feeling the emotional charge that you started us off with. Thank you. Muchas gracias por estas palabras tan poderoso, la verdad. Well, I'll talk as a co-chair. All right, now I'm going to have to get back my composure now. Look what you've done to me. Well, I'll start with, as a co-chair of the Executive Board for the Global Fund for Coral Reef, I am immensely proud that we were among some of the first signatories of Women Ocean Guardians and the voluntary commitments. This is the kind of organization I want to personally be associated with. And it is inspiring to see so many governments and organizations choosing to stand here and come together with this, to saying, we care, we understand this matters, we're joining this movement. And we could see in that video, it matters, it truly matters. Women bring solutions, women bring perspective and experience that matters, that's invaluable. Women keep much of the ocean economy running, and too often underappreciated. I started my career living in a small fishing village on the west coast of Mexico, and I saw this every day, that it was that process, where women were processing the fish and they were selling the fish. They were keeping the equipment running, and in fact, they represent 90% of the workforce, but they're unpaid most of the time. They're treated as unskilled. They're treated as uninformed. They're fully unappreciated too often in too many circles. But we know that an ocean economy only works when they reflect the people who are actually driving them. And this means building them with women's leadership. This means women involved in governance roles and access to finance. And the Global Fund for Coral Reefs is creating and has been created around that idea. We've supported reef-positive enterprises that connect ecosystem health to livelihoods and investment, and we make sure that we're tracking how the enterprises are either women-led or directly benefiting women, so that equity and gender inclusion are upfront. They're visible. It's not an afterthought. They're measurable. It's intentional in the design. And across the fund's portfolio, we're seeing so many results. Like a great example is in the Philippines. It speaks to what the Vice Minister was telling us about, the role of women as rangers. Financing is supporting training women rangers who protect mangroves and coral reefs. And they challenge that long-standing assumption about who gets to be a ranger. I would have loved to have introduced my daughter to one of those women in those ranger uniforms. Imagine what that would have opened up to her as a little girl in terms of seeing possibilities for her. Because role models are so powerful. And traditionally, ocean science has been very male-dominated. I can say, certainly for me, when I entered the workforce in the 1990s, ocean science it was clear, the message that women received. And when you go to a predominantly male interview board, or you are presenting in front of a predominantly male advisory panel, it signals something, to a young scientist, to all scientists. It signals that women's ideas, they might not be welcome here, right? It signals that she may not, belong in that space. And I imagine all of us have probably experienced a little bit of this in some aspect, because over time these signals accumulate and they shape who feels like they're being invited to step forward. And to me, there's so much power in Women Ocean Guardians in terms of recognizing role models, lifting, elevating those opportunities for role models for the next generation of leaders, sending a message, step into this space and your contribution will be valued. Whether we intend to or not, women's leadership is essential for setting the culture of inclusivity. Whether we set a positive example or a negative example, we're essential for future women leaders. Everyone contributes to that culture one way or the other. And we need women's contributions in ocean governance. We should all, as women leaders, invite other women to stand on our shoulders. as I reflect some of the amazing women who I've had the honor to connect with as role models in my career. One of the first ones was Dr. Marcia Landau. She was, in 1991, the first director of the School of Fisheries of the University of Washington. She entered in 1991, the first year that I entered as well. And I didn't know for years that she was the one that picked me out of a group of male-dominated students, applicants, for the recruitment scholarship that allowed me to attend that university. I found out much, much later that it was her that had specifically selected me on the year that she arrived in that position. Usha Bernaze was the director of the Northwest Fisheries Science Center, a program in NOAA. And she picked me as a postdoc fellow and allowed me to help carry on groundbreaking work that she had started, data that had been published in Nature and Science that she entrusted me to continue. And it was the work that I did as a postdoc for her where I learned so much, but the real impact was the fact that even after I finished the fellowship, she didn't release me. She kept bringing me back. She kept facilitating my ability to continue to work on those projects until all the data was published, which scientists in the room know that can take years after you've left that position. And she continued to support me and bring me back until we had published all of the findings that we had. And I remain very, very proud of some of that early work. I served as the science policy lead for the US Department of State under Hillary Clinton. And I remember her words that she said. In fact, she borrowed it from another humanitarian worker who had worked in the Kibera settlements about talent is universal, opportunity is not. She said that all the time in staff meetings, in high-level official presentations. It was a rallying cry for equity and inclusion. It was a call to everyone who worked at the Department of State at that time under her leadership to understand this was the instruction for our work. And it's this type of leadership that's so important for women who are going to have these opportunities to be recognized, for families, for communities. We all benefit. Some of you may be familiar with Rachel Carlson. I had a chance to talk about her last week at the Barcelona Convention, so I've been thinking about her recently. She was a leading ocean scientist. I saw somebody wipe their eyes. We're all in this together, right? She's a real pioneer in pollution research, for those of you who have done work in environmental contaminations and pollution field. Yeah. Somebody was telling me recently that was one of the first books they read in graduate school or in studying environmental science. Rachel Carlson, Silent Spring. But that groundbreaking work, you know, when she first did it, because she was challenging the status quo, she was completely dismissed. And with terms like emotional and hysterical, you know, I mean, what does that say to everybody else that wants to come after her? So for me, this particular story is personal because she was one of the first female scientists to come to the United States Fisheries Science Center based in Woods Hole, Massachusetts in the US. And if you walk that building today, you'll see these big old pictures of the research vessels that were there. One of them is the Albatross. The Albatross was there when she was there in the late 1940s. And she asked to join one of those vessels, the Albatross, in one of those research trips. And she was told no. She was told no because there are only male scientists on board. I don't think that anybody realized that they were trying to eliminate an entire gender from contributing to science. I think they just didn't understand what she had to offer, or at least that's the most compassionate interpretation I can take. But 6 decades later, I became the first deputy director of that same science center. And so I was responsible for the crew that we decided to send out on those vessels, the vessels that were the successor of the Albatross. And let me tell you, female leadership matters because during the Me Too movement, when staff came to me and explained to me what had been happening on those vessels for entire careers, the fact that you had a woman who not only was willing to listen, but also had experienced the same thing herself as a young scientist, meant that we understood. We took it seriously, and I can tell you, we didn't deal with it quietly under the rug. We made it visible, and we made it clear what would not be tolerated. And so, yeah, progress is real. It's slow, but it's real. And today, when you go, if you have a chance to visit Woods Hole, you'll see right outside that same science center, there's a statue of commemoration of Rachel Carson, with pride and recognition of her contribution to science that she did despite having to fight a lot of battles. And we're going to fight those battles now to help with the next generation so their road will be smoother. Like Inger Anderson always says, our job is to clear the path so that others can walk more easily. Let me close with a sentiment from Wangari Maathai, who's one of my greatest role models. She always talked about the little things that citizens do that will make a difference. And when she received her Nobel Peace Prize in 2004, she said she hoped that it will encourage women and girls to raise their voices and take more space for leadership. And I have so much gratitude to the Women Ocean Guardians movement for actually providing a model for what that looks like. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Susan, for sharing how the Global Fund for Coral Reefs are doing affirmative gender actions, but for bringing and recognizing so many women that influenced your leadership. And from my heart, thank you for recognizing park rangers as well. I never feel so proud of using a uniform as when I was a deputy of Environmental Ministry of Costa Rica and being a ranger with them. So thank you so much for bringing them into this forum. Now, I invite 3 gender champions to join us for a conversation on how governments, multilateral funders, and civil society are supporting women ocean guardians and the principles for inclusive nature action to shape ocean governance and sustainable resource management worldwide. Our first panelist is a pioneer, a champion for small island development states, and a representative of one of the commitment's earliest signatories on behalf of the government of Grenada. Please join me in welcoming Ambassador Safi Sani, Special Envoy and Ambassador for Climate Change of Grenada. Next, it is my pleasure to welcome Benjamin Singer, Senior Biodiversity Specialist of the Global Environmental Facility. The Jeff has been an early believer in the Women Ocean Guardians initiative, providing critical support to achieve the momentum that we are seeing today. Benjamin brings deep experience in aligning environmental finance and gender-responsive governance, a critical ingredient of accelerating biodiversity outcomes. Welcome, Benjamin. We are also glad to have you. Finally, it is an honor for me to welcome Tina Ray, founder and director of Women for Biodiversity, and a passionate advocate for women's rights and environmental justice, to share more about how the principles of inclusive nature action are helping governments, donors, NGOs, and other stakeholders drive gender-responsive, locally led, rights-based approaches to sustainability, using, protecting, and restoring global biodiversity. Welcome, Tina, and thank you to all the 3 of our panelists for being here. Now I'm moving here. I would like to start with you, Sophia. And I would like ask you, as a representative of a small island development state, what does Women Ocean Guardians Initiative represent for the women frontline of Grenada and across the wider Caribbean.
Great, thank you so much, Pamela, and again, congratulations for your impressive leadership on this initiative. As a representative of the government of Grenada, I am quite proud to support this. I always like to start off these sessions by saying that I'm a very proud Women Ocean Guardian. I'm also a woman of the sea. Currently, in my role, I serve as Special Envoy for Climate for the government of Grenada. I also serve as the Special Advisor to my minister, who is also a woman, and she's also a youth. She's 27 years old, for environment, climate, and renewable energy. In my work as a policymaker, I have consistently been shown that the effectiveness of any climate finance and conservation effort is determined at the community level. It is also clear that collective representation is important as it shifts the narrative of women community leaders from being marginalized and vulnerable recipients of aid to being acknowledged within formal systems of governance as essential architects of national and regional resilience, and as we heard earlier, as valued stakeholders. What does this mean? It means that we cannot move forward to meet important environmental targets without formally empowering women. The Women Ocean Guardians Initiative, therefore, is a formal institutionalization of women's leadership as the frontline workers and champions filling critical implementation gaps. It is a declaration to the international community that the success of our ambition in the Caribbean region on important conservation and climate resilient efforts like 30 by 30 is unattainable without indigenous and local knowledge held by women. It not only brings the much needed validation and recognition of women's role in frontline guardianship into government policies, but also strongly amplifies and highlights women's role in preserving Grenada's economic security and climate survival. So what does this all mean? It means that I have a lot of work to do. It means, as Pamela says, that I need to be an agent of change. It means that as I work within the policy space in my government, that I need to advance policy that has teeth. It means ensuring that this commitment moves from principle to practice. It means that I need to ensure that within my role, that I support new policies that continue to place women in the decision-making role, that continues to provide career opportunities, that continues to provide financing, that continues to provide access to the spaces that allows them to use their creativity, their innovation, their ingenuity, their leadership to contribute to policy making, solution making, and implementation. It means allowing Grenada to catalyze its progress towards important environmental obligations by utilizing its women leaders. It also means improving access to finance, ensuring that the right to building an enabling environment domestically and regionally is driven by the work of women leaders, providing access to women to unlock financial resources, to support women entrepreneurs, to support women-led conservation and businesses. Finally, it also means enshrining protection and rights principles into policy. Economic empowerment requires safety and legal protection. It is therefore important that in my role, I ensure that the government sees the safety and economic empowerment of women guardians as a prerequisite for successful climate conservation and sustainable development action. For me and my government, the Women Oceans Guardians Initiative is the right platform to springboard the much needed change for women like my mother, who is a community leader leading on community-focused development. She remains unpaid, she remains uncredited, yet she still remains incredibly powerfully hopeful and determined and inspirational. Thus, I would like to take the opportunity to once again reaffirm Grenada's commitment here at UNEA to continue to advance and advocate for Women Ocean Guardians. Grenada looks forward to working with fellow signatories to move this incredible movement forward and congratulate the governments of Germany and Seychelles for their recent commitment. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia, for being a Women Ocean Guardians, elevating other Women Ocean Guardians, and with a clear vision on how to action the volunteer community. Thank you, and the Grenada government. to remember us that this is a matter as well of a resilient and surveillance initiative. So I will turn to Benjamin. UNEA 7 has strongly emphasized mobilizing and reforming environmental finance. From the JEF perspective, what financial mechanisms or approaches are most promising for directing resources to women frontliners in ocean conservation?
Thank you very much, and it's a great honor to be here. Before I delve into answering your question, I'd like to address the elephant in the room. I think I am the only man to be gracing this stage in the course of this session. But it's actually really significant. This isn't a zero-sum game where when you are empowering women, you lose your power. You're not any less of a man if you're supporting your wives, your sisters, your mothers, your daughters. It makes you more of a man. And so I think it's important. I'm actually very proud to be here. I'd like to thank my colleague Ines Benabdallah, who recommended that I participate in this, because I think it's important for men to also be part of this. And it actually reassures me that there are so many men in the audience today. Secondly, the baseline that we have. Now, when the JEF, obviously, we support in designing projects, and what we call the baseline is basically the current situation before the project starts getting implemented. The baseline today, especially in fishing communities, is that women, despite playing very prominent roles, as we have heard, are invisible. They're invisible to the extent that we talk about fishermen, right? Despite the huge role that they contribute to among communities and livelihoods, in value chains, etc. And so we start from a very low baseline. And that is a starting point, as a point of departure that the JEF has and has had in supporting a proposal that is currently under development with support from CI and WCS on Women Ocean Guardians, which is not a big project by JEF standards. This is only a $4 million project, but it builds on existing informal networks of women leaders in this area and aims to support the establishment of a network. It aims to improve the governance and involve women more in decision-making. And it also includes a small number of pilots where women's livelihoods are going to be supported and enhanced. And it's global. It covers the Caribbean, it covers East and Southern Africa, and it covers East Asia. And the aim is it's basically a number of enabling activities which aim to be scaled up. So this $4 million is really seed money to support women in playing more prominent roles. And it's, again, coming back to my initial idea, it's not a question of women empowering, well, let's say not only a question of women empowering women. Susan, you very correctly pointed out that this is a crucial role, but it's also men empowering women. And the examples that you provided also put me in the mind of how Jane Goodall actually started working. She was empowered by a man, Louis Leakey, right? So it does exist. It is out there. And I do invite my fellow men to also consider that because it really benefits us all. And so this JEF-funded project, which we hope will come to fruition very soon, it very much embodies that idea that you can't leave 50% of humanity out of the picture. Fully including both men and women really benefits us all, and it's also for the benefit of people and planet.
Thank you, Benjamin and the GEF team for being a core partner to the Women Ocean Guardians initiative to support women unlocking their power. Now I would like to turn to Tina. Your work with Women for Biodiversity has been fundamental in shaping global norms and gender-responsive, inclusive conservation. Could you share how the principles of inclusive nature action can guide UNEA 7's ocean-related solutions?
Thanks, Pamela. It's wonderful to be here and also actually see a lot of familiar faces, and thank you so much for the invitation. But before I go actually on the principles, I want to also say the principles were just housed just about 2 years ago when we were in the UK. But I also want to share that our relationship goes way beyond that, in the sense that we're talking about the gender-responsive policy that we were able to embed in the CBD in the guise of the Target 23, first time ever to have the ambition of parties we wouldn't have been able to do with the ambition of the parties, because we are reminded of a party-led process, but to have that amazing consensus of ensuring that the target, the gender equality, was an important aspect of that. So I also take the opportunity for also thanking everybody, including the parties. So it's not only us. And just to also say, Pamela remembers this, and we didn't have anything. We went from Debatos, he was completely started off as just volunteer, we were just a network. And because of the connection with the CBD and knowing the party delegates, we brought together a webinar where we brought in the vice president, thanks to Pamela, at that from Costa Rica and from Uruguay, to really also house, this was the post-2020, this is in 2020, just after COVID, and we were just getting used to the Zoom and everything else. So I think it was a really collective effort that has brought us all together here. And I'm really honored to have these spaces, and these spaces also to be shared with, like you said, the guardians of the oceans, the seas, the lands. I mean, without them, I think we would be living so comfortably, right? Like we are in our comfort zones, but this also is a moment for us to realize that we really need to ground our ambitions in the realities. I just want to kind of share, I'm going to take a point from Benjamin, I'm going from the principles, and it also responds to that, is we're talking about the principles. This principles was brought together with a lot of civil society organizations, agencies, DEFRA in UK. We got together in this beautiful, beautiful space called the Wilton Park, and it came out with 8 principles. And the idea of those compilation was not to come up with something new, but to re-energize ourselves with some of the same things that we've always talked about. You know, talking about the importance of human rights. Key concept, but how do we really mobilize that? I mean, we are 70 plus years in recognizing human rights, and we're still struggling to really understand how they really formalize in the realities. Talking about fishing communities and talking about data, because I'm coming from Asia, I just want to share something which I think was very relevant. This is just a recent report of ASEAN, which is a Southeast Asia mechanism, where I want to get the exact thing what they've said here, is that between 2015 and 2021, increases in the economic contribution of ASEAN's fishery sectors outpaced production increases, emphasizing the importance of the sectors of rural communities. This was a report that recently just launched on valuing where do the women stand. And I think where one of our colleagues in the beginning, in the openings, talked about, this is the invisible populations. How do you really make sure that when you're talking about fishing communities, it's not only men, this is not only about access, but it's also the benefits arising from those resources that are also will be adequately responded to. So I just want to also end up with saying that there are 8 core principles. I'm not going to go through all of them, they are online, but I still keep harping on one thing. What it really compasses in a very clear guideline is that women's rights is human rights. We really need to, and no matter whatever action you do, it just needs to be grounded on the reality that women are not the others. You don't need to be thinking of them as a separate thing of mainstreaming. We are doing that. Oh, we forgot gender, the tick box. Now let's see what we can do a gender plan. We are peoples. We are peoples of society. We are people as a whole. But we're still having to struggle to have the recognition of rights, like you talked about. Your mom, taken for granted that you're a woman, you're a caretaker, and that's your job, right? So how do we really make sure that when we're talking about these key principles on inclusion, on human rights, that human rights should really be, I think, deciphered in very simple terms. And it really means that we really need to look at our work and see how we can really amplify the work of these global commitments. They're very big, But like you're talking about the ocean guardians, you're talking about it. I don't think so they even know that these global commitments are there that recognizes their rights. So I think it's about all of us to see how we can really bridge that gap with each other. And I'm also happy to see, I'm just going to end with that the CBD has a guiding principle and all the Rio conventions on gender plans of actions, gender action plans, and also in the Coral decision that has come out, really at least happy to say, there are very small wins, but I think if we decipher it, it talks about the relevance of that to culture. You know, some of the small things, I'm like, oh my God, that's powerful. Just that word in that decision is really very powerful. And a lot of those cultural, traditional knowledge, resources are with women. So with that, I will give the floor back to you.
With such clear vision on how to actionate women ocean guardians and elevating women groups, I don't want to have the floor back. I want to continue to but you know, thank you to Tina for championing this alone sometimes. And sometimes you have luck and find someone in these discussions, but now we have a lot of people that are here committed. Sometimes when we start talking about gender and Target 23, it was smaller groups in the site events. So this is a growing movement, collective leadership. This is not about egos. It is about women around the world. So with that, I will open the floor because we have been doing an amazing work with the time managing. So if someone wants to make a questions to the panelists or short, very short statements, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your incredibly powerful statements, and thank you for being role models for the rest of us, men and women. I just wanted to, and I did wipe a tear while you were talking, I admit, because role models are so important. I come from Iceland, and I'm from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I'm Director General for Development Cooperation and other things. And I just wanted to sort of, gender equality and women's empowerment is such an important part of our foreign policy and our development policy. And I am so grateful to be working for a government that sees it that way. It did not come to happen just like that. It's the grassroots organizations, it's the women's organizations who have really pushed in my country the progress forward. So we had 50 years ago, we had a women's strike. So all women in Iceland, they left their jobs, official jobs at home, and they went on a strike. The more conservative ladies called it a day off, the more radical striked. And I remember this day because I was 8 and my mother striked, and my father did not know how to cook, so we had just a toast for lunch and dinner that day. And it, for me, just having, sort of remembering that and sort of looking back on that has also helped me in sort of defining what I can do. Not what I cannot do, but what I can do. And that movement also sort of initiated another movement, an all-women's political party that ran for a parliament. And slowly but surely, they managed to get the women's rights agenda into the other parties. And then at some point, they dissolved. And just when basically they saw that what mattered in inequality was already on the table. There is work to be done. Affordable childcare, for example, a very important part, affordable quality childcare, equal parental leave for men and women. In Iceland, men tend to take the parental leave. Women get slightly more, but I think like 2 weeks more than men. Equal pay legislation. So meeting in the middle, government legislation, grassroots organizations, then we get somewhere. But changing attitudes and norms and values, that's the challenge. And I hope that we can all sort of continue to push on that. Sorry for being so long. I'm really emotional about this.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm from India. I am a retired defense officer. My most powerful and, as on today, the most powerful person in the world is my mother. So I don't think any decision at home, let it be 1 liter of milk or 2 liters of milk, it has to be taken by her. And my father used to look for her, how many liters we require to buy. Well, we all talk about the women empowerment. We talk about that women need to be. I used to come to India. There is a place called Meghalaya, where women's superiority prevails in the society, where it is a very harmonious society, where man may be the chief minister of the state. All the political leaders are male, but the property is inherited by the female. It is, you will be surprised when the marriage is over, the boy goes to the girl's house. It is not the girl coming to the boys. It is also in Kerala, which is southern part of the country. There again, it is the girls who inherited the property. It is not the men. I wish the people come to that place, study how the society is functioning. I have been working there. I know how well it is organized. And women go to the, for shopping, goes to the market, they sell items, and men may be doing their job, which is supposed to be suitable for them. So there is no superiority complex or some ego problem. That society is living very beautifully. I wish people take some interest to come to that country and do some studies. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. I really felt obliged to respond to that because, namaste, I'm from India too. And actually the same background. I come from a military background. My great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father, my cousins, my women cousins who are married to army officers, so it's a whole lineage there. No, I really do. And I think it is really important to really also acknowledge that it's not that they're not good examples. There are, but they're very space-specific. And the idea is, like, say, for example, in India, you're talking about it, they're fantastic, they are matriarchal societies, but not withstanding also that just because they have those rights, they are not biased. I can give an example of gender-based violence. So it is there. I really do hope that the whole of India would actually really mobilize that. But in the larger context and how powerful India is, if they're listening, they'll be like. But I think I do want to say this because I think I should, is that we need to do more. We need to really make sure that not only in a society, it is there, and if you're looking at it, what are some of the communities that you've talked about are actually indigenous communities, you know, where they have a matriarchal system. But in the larger state level, women are still challenged with rights. I mean, a simple example is that I don't feel safe to walk in the night after, I don't know, 10 a.m. outside. And that is a situation. And again, if you're looking at natural resources management, you have the Forest Rights Act, you're looking at communities who are still struggling as a whole to get their rights to the resources. So yes, I really do hope if these examples of good examples could also portray, but also saying that let's also try to look at cases much more intersectionally to really see is that that's good examples that they could be replicated. But like what we really wanted is also taking these spaces like the UNEP to really mobilize governments as a whole, the member states as a whole, to ensure that, yes, you have good examples in a very small corner of the country, but how can you then amplify that or really ensure that gender equality or human rights is just the agenda of the state? Not by saying that, we have that particular place and that's okay, and about the second largest population in the world, where small percent is there. So thank you so much for sharing, and I think that hopefully that we can also get some of those people to really share what worked, what didn't work. But saying that we still need to advance as a whole, to also put our ambitions much more strongly to ensure that every woman in India has equal rights.
Now we are negotiating the time. I just want to say, thank you for the statement from the floor. I would love to change that in our meetings. I think that we need to shift the system on how we refer, so we can be inclusive and we are on the same page for making decisions. But Women Ocean Guardians is a movement which in gene is love, vulnerability, and acceptance, that if we want to change things, we need to connect to where we come from that uterus that give us life, and working together as a communities, as a nation, as a world, to open and be fair and recognize the invisibles to become visible together. So we have heard today that it is clear that governments, multilateral funds, and civil society each have a critical role. And when all three align behind women on the front lines, ocean governance becomes stronger, fair, and more effective. So thank you so much for the panelists today, and I welcome to move to the closing segment. Now I move again. So as we entered the final part of today's event, we are honored to hear from 3 global leaders whose countries have shown a strong commitment to inclusive ocean governance. It is my pleasure today that 2 countries have signed a voluntary commitment. The first country in the Pacific, Australia. So I'm honored to invite Katrina Maguire, Head of Delegation of the Australian Government, to take the floor.
Thank you very much. If I wasn't excited to sign on to this commitment before I came into the room, I certainly am now. When we were at UNEP earlier this year, we thought we'd already signed on to this commitment. And it turns out we hadn't actually signed the piece of paper, but we have been telling everyone that we had signed on. So when Pamela said, would you like to join? I said, we already have. But turns out I just needed to put the ink on the paper. But also when we were at UNEP, we were in a room that was very hot and very tempered. The conversation was a very classic conference conversation that kept getting drowned out by the noise coming from the room next door, which turned out to be an event by the Women Ocean Guardians. And we were all so jealous that we were stuck in this boring room and could hear all the passion and stories and laughter and probably the tears that we couldn't see coming through the walls at UNEP. So we're very, very excited to have joined. I think the only other tears I've shed this week was at 1 a.m. when we were trying to negotiate whether as appropriate should go at the start of a sentence or at the bottom of a paragraph. But there's so many opportunities here, hearing the conversation in the room. I can just see so many connecting points with Australia. And I just want to leave, talking about Indigenous rangers and women rangers, I just want to leave you with a little quote from a fabulous group of women we have, Indigenous women who work on the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, who received the Earthshot Prize in 2022. And their managing director, Larissa, said, "This prize is a game changer. We're going to create a global groundswell of First Nations female-led conservation programs, a network of women helping to repair the planet, fueled by ancient knowledge and new technology. Our planet needs us, and it isn't too late." Thank you.
Now it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Mary May Jeremy from the Republic of Seychelles, the first African country to join the voluntary commitment of Women Ocean Guardians, to the stage to chair this important moment.
Thank you, Pamela. Good afternoon, everyone. All protocols observed. It is such an honor for me to be amongst this group this afternoon. So as soon as Pamela reached out to me, and I was very happy, as I'm a very new minister, just 1 month in. So I know Pamela from well before, and I think she really took the opportunity to make sure that she's one of the first commitments that I make on the international scene. So she's been very on point on that. So very, very happy to join. And as you know, in Seychelles, we've been leading conservation work, ocean governance work. And I myself, having grown up by the sea, have become a conservation biologist, have served as the first women president of the Western Indian Ocean Marine Science Association, and now the Minister for Environment. I think I speak volume when I say that I know what women can bring to this space. You can see all of the emotion, all of the heart that is in the room today, and this is what happens when women leaders are in this space. We always think of the future. We have the mothering touch, and I think this is something that cannot be taken for granted. So very, very happy that Seychelles is joining, and I do hope that I'll be able to also garner some more support from our continent, from also outside of the world, to make sure that the Women Oceans Guardian really, really reaches global level. So I thank you.
And to conclude our event, we are incredibly honored to welcome Mr. Minister for Nature of the United Kingdom, Ms. Mary Craig. Minister Craig's leadership has been crucial in advancing Women Ocean Guardians' call to action and the principle for inclusive nature action at the global level. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Pamela. And it's just absolutely wonderful. What an absolutely brilliant event. Can I begin by saying thank you to Dorcas? Your story was incredibly powerful, and we send our sympathies and condolences with you on your loss. But I want to say that wherever your father is, he's looking down with pride at the daughter that he raised, who is a fighter and a change maker. So well done, Dorcas. And Susan, your words about Rachel Carson and your experiences as a young scientist reminded me about how women are dismissed in all walks of life. And I want to share my own little hysterical moment with you. So we were leaving the European Union back in 2018, and I asked our Chancellor what we were going to do about chemicals regulation. I am a bit of a geek, forgive me, but this has actually been a very important consequence of leaving the European Union. And the Chancellor of the Exchequer, quite a boring question, was nervous. And so he said to me, it's really important that she doesn't get hysterical. And I can remember, I was wearing a leather dress that day. And so all my sisters in the Parliamentary Labour Party were like, not going to let him get away with that. And they donutted me. Donuts in the UK Parliament are not crusty, sugary treats. It's when your sisters come and sit with you so that on the TV you don't look like you've got no friends. So I was like, bring the donut. And they did. And I raised a point of order at the end of those questions. And I said, I think the Chancellor may want to reflect on his language because men have been calling women hysterical for the last 200 years. And I just want him to know that my womb is safely in its place. It hasn't travelled to my brain. And he needs to reflect on his sexist language. Yeah, there were some cheers in the Parliament, but what happened afterwards was even more extraordinary because that was clipped on Facebook. I had friends in California saying, we're so proud of you for calling this guy out. And then when I went back to Wakefield, my constituency, strangers were coming up and shaking my hand. And what I realised was, when we do it in public, we all have to do it in private. But actually, it's really important that women leaders do it in public as well and force men to reflect on their reflexive language and their subconscious bias, which, you know, they're products of the patriarchy as well. So we're part of their liberation as well as our liberation. So I'm a daughter of the land. I grew up in Coventry, 100 miles from any beach, and let me tell you, that was a source of great sorrow for me growing up. But these stories that we've heard today are a reminder that nature is the monopoly provider of everything that we need to exist. And when we have women leading ocean stewardship, communities thrive and ecosystems recover. This is not just about fairness, it's about effectiveness and what actually works. Because inclusive conservation action delivers results. It turns ambition into resilience, and resilience becomes opportunity. The UK is proud to have endorsed the Women Ocean Guardians' call to action at UNEP. We support the principles for inclusive nature action, which I launched in Cali at CBD COP16. These are our manuals for change, and we are embedding them in the UK's international programming. Through our funding to the Global Fund for Coral Reefs in Papua New Guinea, we are supporting the Blue Economy Incubation Facility. This initiative backs women-led cooperatives and businesses in coconut oil production, seaweed farming, ecotourism, and sustainable fishing. It supports infrastructure, training, startup grants, helping the women to scale businesses, create jobs, and, crucially, protect nature. From supporting women-led fisheries in Honduras to investing in community plastic recycling in Ghana, these principles are helping us as a government to unlock finance for community-led conservation worldwide. We've heard today why this initiative matters. Because women on the front lines of climate change, nature loss, and ocean stewardships are not just participants, they are leaders. But as Susan said, you can't be what you can't see. And so we need to lift up and have role models and amplify the voices of women like Dorcas, who are leading and breaking new ground, breaking new sand in this place. We can learn from them about how to care for our common home. So I'm so pleased the UK has helped raise the profile of this network and to champion your vision. I hope that we can use our influence to unlock resources, build partnerships, and turn your ambition, our ambition, into action by securing funding for women-led initiatives, supporting the network's expansion into new regions, and encouraging other governments and donors to endorse the call to action. Classic moment from Australia. Signing the document is always the most stressful part of the deal. The lawyers will always have us. So I'm so excited to see how this initiative is going to grow and how it's going to work with partners to expand, particularly into Africa. We think these steps will strengthen livelihoods, protect the ocean, and uphold our rights. We've heard today how the principles for inclusive nature action provide a guide for a wide range of actors, governments, the funders, CSOs, to protect and restore nature by listening to the voices of those who most depend on it. These principles tell us what works: decisions made close to communities, funding that reaches the local level, respect for the knowledge that has sustained ecosystems for generations. They are a practical guide for governments, for donors and partners to move from words into action and to design policies that unlock local leadership and deliver benefits that last. Progress depends on partnership. So let me conclude with a call to action. To governments and donors, please endorse the principles and sign the call to action. Funders and partners help scale women-led initiatives. And to civil society and business, join us in building partnerships that make our ambition real. Change starts locally, but it succeeds globally when we act together. Let us make sure the tide of inclusive ocean action continues to rise, and great women like Dorcas and her colleagues along with it. Thank you.
Thank you for being a role model, and for all the women leaders that are at this moment leading policy-making processes, for having the women lenses that guide what you are doing at your governments. So I would love not to finish this, but we know that we have the closing plenary. But I cannot end this by requesting all the speakers, ministers, and panelists to come here, because we will take a picture with all of you as a movement of transformative of ocean governance. Sorry, now, at this moment, it's just my English and Spanish, I cannot speak. So please come here, and we will take the picture from here to the back, so all of you can stand with Women Ocean Guardians.